Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Suited Kings podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at some spots in tournaments where we have 35 big blinds effective. My friend Max here, my friend and co-host, he is actually out in Hawaii, but we're going to record this one virtually.
Hawaii
Max, how are you doing
edition.
out there?
Doing good, man. I am currently sitting on the eighth hole of the Makai Golf Course in Kauai, Kauai, Hawaii. It's been awesome out here, man. We've been here for this is day 8 today, so only a couple days left, and I get to come back home. As you guys can probably hear, the quality might not be as good as usual because we do not have the home studio set up, but nonetheless, we grind, right? So we're gonna be out here trying
We
to.
grind, and let's be very clear, the quality of our content is always top notch. It just, our voices might be a little bit less clear.
There you go. There you go. There's a possible chance this episode might even come out in video format. Who knows? We'll decide after we're done here. But yeah, I think today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to dig into where 35 big blind play, which I believe is going to be, where you'll find yourself oftentimes most frequently in tournaments at that kind of big blind depth. So we're going to go over a couple of hands that Wes has brought to the table and discuss, instead of like looking at it, I think from like one hand perspective, like we'll go over how you should play multiple different hands in those scenarios. Is
Yeah,
that
basically that's what it is. One of these hands is going to be a spot that it wasn't even a hand I played. I was just looking at it because I'm like, this is a scenario where it feels really awkward. Like everything feels really awkward for one of the players in this sort of situation. And so we'll just go over what hands should play what way in that spot. The second hand is actually an online one I played where we'll still do the same thing though, like take
yeah.
a look at what different hands should play different ways.
I think that's a good way to look at it though, because it's easier then for people to get a wider range of how they should play different things instead of one specific scenario where they might not find themselves. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's good.
100%. And yeah, as far as the 35 big blind thing, I feel like, when you're in a tournament, a lot of people have played cash, 100 big blinds. People kind of know how to do that. When you're super short, you can study shove ranges, three bet shove ranges. And then, if you have 15 bigs and you flop top pair, like it's easier to just know when it's okay to get it in.
Yeah, yeah.
That 30 to 40 big blind range is sort of where it's too much to just flop an okay hand and go with,
Hmm.
but it's also not enough. It's a short enough stack where you can find yourself in a position where you have to make a decision for your whole stack somewhat frequently. And
Yeah,
it's
I think
it's
more errors can be made at that depth than, like you said, at a 15 big blind depth where you have top pair, et cetera. Like top pair with 35 big blinds can either make or break your tournament. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously can at any depth, but I'm saying there's a lot more ways to go about it than just getting it all in.
Yeah, like you can have 35 bigs and have an above average chip stack in the tournament. So
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
yeah, it is that sort of in between stack where I think a lot of people just it can feel very uncomfortable to navigate these sorts of spots. Which yeah, I guess leads into the first hand where this is the one, it wasn't an actual hand that was played, but I was like, okay, let me think of a scenario where it's like the maximum discomfort, basically. So the first hand is going to be a hand where under the gun raises the 2.2 big blinds and then just the big blind calls.
Okay.
So basically, what we're looking at here is the big blind. You're already out of position against under the gun, who's going to be the strongest range. And so you're automatically going to feel like you're playing defense a little bit here,
And
right?
let me pause you for a brief moment. I know most people know this, but under the gun is going to be the first person to act at a
Mm-hmm.
full ring table or at any ring, I guess at any. But anyway, so the first person to act. So the reason that their range is going to be the most strong is because they have no position. They have everybody behind them. So typically we should be tightening our range from earlier position like that. I know that goes without being said in most cases, but continue on.
Yeah. First question before we even get to a flop here. If you're thinking of what hands to three bet as the big blind, like how tight are you going to be here?
Against
Facing,
under the gun, oof.
yeah.
I'm definitely going to, I mean, personally, you know me, I'm a nit. So, I
I don't know
mean,
about that.
you know, it's going to be the top percentage of hands, you know, aces, kings. I'm sometimes going to flat queens, and jacks. I'm flatting. I mean, there's hands like that. Um, I mean, you know, speculative hands are hands that I could three bet against later position opens like ace X suiteds and stuff like that. I'm probably still just going to be flatting those and trying to realize equity before I'm getting any more chips in.
Yeah. That's kind of my instinct too. So I do have the chart pulled up here. Basically, we can three bet down to like tens or even nines, but then it wants to mix in some bluffs of like offsuit hands. So like basically low frequency three betting a lot of ace X and a lot of Broadway offsuit hands. All right. So yeah, basically I think the way you were talking about is like you're probably three betting just aces, kings, ace, king, queens. And then I'm guessing you would just be flatting, like you wouldn't be mixing in these three bet bluffs as much, which
Yeah.
that makes sense. So like if you are going to three bet jacks and tens for value, you need to have these bluffs in your range too. So you're not just like so that your opponent has incentive to call with worse hands. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're not going to have these bluffs, which realistically most people aren't really doing that, I don't think I'm really doing that. It makes sense to flat with like yeah jacks, tens, nines as well. As we can see, like every suited hand except ace king is just a pure flat. So
There's a lot of green on there. And then, so kind of just to explain, Wes, you want to kind of tell people what these colors are here?
yep. What blue means fold, green means call, red means raise, and then the dark red is actually all in,
Okay.
which basically we're never doing, but like tens, ace king offsuit, queen jack suited, and then ace deuce off. They all do that at a very, very, very low
Ace deuce
frequency.
off is pretty ambitious, man.
Yeah.
And again, this is, if this goes to video, you guys will see this. Otherwise, we're just, you know, we're looking at it in person as we go through it. So no worries if you can't see this.
All right. So next, so we're gonna just say we call as the big blind here. The flop. So going to the discomfort factor here, the flop is going to be ace of hearts, queen of diamonds, seven of hearts. The ace queen, yeah. So this obviously already just favors under the gun, who's going to have a much tighter opening range and therefore is going to have a lot. You know, we both can have all the aces.
Yeah.
Actually, under the gun can't have all the ace X offsuit, but like the big blind can have so many hands that don't have an ace, whereas aces make up a larger percentage of the under the guns opening range than the
Yeah.
big blind's defending range. So
Yeah.
this is our lead spot.
So, and it looks, I mean, you know, under the gun is going to have ace, pocket aces and pocket queens. So they're going to have top middle set a lot more frequently. We could have pocket sevens from the big blind. I mean, you know,
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
the both the range and the nut advantage are squarely in under the gun.
Yeah. So they have an advantage. So under the gun has an advantage. We've kind of clarified that with this.
Um,
That is.
yep. Yeah. So big blind's going to just check 100% here, and I think most people are going to intuitively just do that anyways. So now we want to look at under the guns play here. So unsurprisingly, under the gun can pretty much just bet everything.
Can I pause you real quick? Are we assuming both the under the gun and the big blind have 35 big blinds?
Yes.
Okay. So we're both dead even. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so we'll just ignore any sort of ICM impact here. So we'll 35 big blinds effective stack. And yeah, the way it shows up on here is just everyone has 35 big blinds for the
Okay.
sake of the studying.
Okay.
So if we look at under the gun, at under the gun's range here, and we look at GTO Wizard, basically we want to be betting everything and we want to be mixing the sizes, but you know, so sometimes 1.2 big, sometimes 1.95 big, sometimes 3.25, sometimes 4.9. And you know, there are some strategic reasons for this. When it's the case that most hands are just mixing, you don't have to like I think some people who are really into this stuff will get too caught up in like, okay, here are my sizes that I think I can use on this board. And this one should be about 25%. So I'm going to randomize and somehow figure out what size to use based on some randomizing.
Can you hear the birds out there?
No, no, I
Okay,
can't.
good. I was hoping that wasn't distracting.
No. Can you hear the screaming in the next room?
You might want to call the cops for that one. Okay, okay, continue. Sorry. But
Yeah.
I guess it looks like they want, I mean, according to the chart here, it looks like maybe a little bit of over half bed or half pot is going to be the more popular size in here, 33% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're going to look more at the bigger sizings here just because I think the biggest thing we can get out of this is knowing how to play the big blind. And we're just going to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the big blind here
Okay.
because the way to get better is to think through these really uncomfortable spots.
Yeah.
So we'll choose the 4.9 big blind size for under the gun. The pot was 5.9 big blind, so this is like 80%, just a little bit over that. And this size can be, I mean, it's a little bit more. We choose it a little bit more with stuff like ace king, but for the most part, any hand that we have here can use this sizing at some frequency.
Okay.
So
I kind of like sizing up on this board. I mean, just to really, like you said, put pressure on the big blinds. A lot of the big blinds range here could be, Queen X, 7X, even some Ace X, and then also a lot of flush draws, a lot of Broadway draws. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of hands that the big blind would want to continue on this board, and I think that applying, a bigger size would, obviously don't want a lot, the King tens to fold, but
yeah. So looking at big blind here, now we're facing a big bet. Obviously, we haven't defined what the big blind's hand is, but let's just start off by looking at Queen X. Like already, if we see like queen eight suited, unless it has hearts, basically any queen suited queen that isn't
there's a lot of folding
hearts.
happening.
Yeah, like we're supposed to just start folding a queen right off the bat. And that's sort of the power of this big bet where like it allows under the gun to just bluff off so much equity already.
Mhm.
Um,
Let's
a
keep in
lot of
mind. Let's keep in mind, though, I think a lot of opponents that we're going to be playing with against live in this spot are going to still be flatting with queens here. But yeah, but
yeah,
that's just something to keep in mind.
yeah, well, and I found it super interesting because I think it's become so common to if you you're in a hand, you face a flop bet. If you have anything, to at least call the flop, right?
Okay.
Like, and I think the reason that that's sort of become a thing is, once people started down betting several years ago, against the down bet sizing, like, yeah, you want to be staying in with your any pair, any gut shot, like any even like overs and a backdoor, any sort of hint of a made hand or a draw, right? And so I was actually kind of surprised looking at this. I was surprised that we're just supposed to fold a seven or a queen here as the big blind.
When
We can
what
see that.
what queens do we start calling with? I'm
Well,
trying
it's
to.
just the hearts.
Okay, the
It,
ones
it,
with the
it
heart.
doesn't even really matter what the kicker is. Like queen jacks of spades should be folding here.
Okay. Okay, I see.
I guess king queen, we can do some calling with.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
for some reason here, like, well, no, I guess it makes some sense. So if we have queen jack, any offsuit queen, we can call if we have one heart
Okay.
too.
Okay.
So having the back door is
Looks like it
important.
still wants you to fold those even 40% of the time or so. Or am I
No, so
looking at?
in the lower right here,
Yeah.
so here's queen 10, like queen 10 with a 10 of hearts or with a queen of hearts. It's like we should always call those, and then we should always fold queen 10 without a heart.
I see. Oh, okay. I was looking at it incorrectly. I see.
Yep. Yeah. So over on the left here, yeah. On the right, it shows by each individual combo. And even, we look at like queen 10 with the 10 of hearts, like calling is barely making us any money against the under the guns range. So like if you know that your opponent is it doesn't bluff enough and you face this bet, you could probably just fold out 100% of queens, except for like queen X with the front door heart draw.
Okay.
And then, so we're calling with any ace. We're calling with flush draws, and we're raising basically two pair or better, which we don't have much of here.
Yeah.
Big blind is not going to have a lot of good value hands, but then can also raise like some of the king high, like king three of hearts, king deuce of hearts, basically the nut flush draw, or I guess 5-4 hearts occasionally, but without looking at each small individual combo, the overall story is big blind against under the gun on this board that favors under the gun's range. When under the gun bets big, like big blind should just fold a lot. Like
It looks, yeah. Okay. And I think that kind of goes with what I was mentioning earlier, where like if you start calling this, there's going to be so many turns where you just should be folding anyways if your hand doesn't improve. So you're just losing that extra 4 big blinds and putting yourself at a far more riskier big blind depth, to whereas you're remaining, you're keeping a lot of that, you're keeping a lot more I don't know, just big blinds in general to keep yourself in that safer zone than going down into kind of like that danger zone.
Yeah, it's a lot less if you're facing like one of these down bet sizings, which here I'll even click on briefly. If under the gun bets 1.9 big blinds, so those
that changes a lot right there.
Yeah, suddenly big blind should call with every queen, can call with any 7, should call with all the gut shots, can raise a little bit more with just ace X. And I think before we were folding 63% of hands, which now we're folding half of hands. It's still, we're still going to have a lot of hands that just miss and can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when we face that small sizing, suddenly is the big blind, when we have one pair, queen or a 7, it becomes much more appealing to call, partially as a bluff catcher, but also because we do have a 5-out draw to improve. Whereas when we're facing 80%, we're not calling out of position with a 5-outer just to try and improve.
Well, so let's look at this from the eyes of the under the gun then. Say we have king 10 suited under the gun that we opened up, or some sort of Broadway suited that we opened up that now has a gutter, right? And it's not an ace or queen. So king 10, king jack suited, something like that, right? I feel like those are hands that we might want to be sizing up here to get, if we're going to be getting all queen X and 7Xs to fold, those are hands we should be sizing up. Whereas like if we have like hands like top 2, top set, mid set, or any hands like that is where we could maybe be downsizing. I mean, do you agree with that?
A bit, yeah. Like,
because I'm saying we want.
So I agree. I agree with top set, because top set we fully block. Like there's only one ace left for our opponent to call with. And I actually do think here, like it shows how for under the gun, like pocket aces is kind of the one hand where we don't want to use any big sizing. If we have pocket 7s, we can use some big sizing. But yeah, I think the way to look at it is, yes, like with pocket aces, go small. But if we have 7s or king 10, the benefits sort of balance each other out. Like if we have pocket 7s, we're betting big so we can get all the money from an ace eventually. And an ace has to, and an ace
can be a lot more combinations of aces out there.
Yeah. And the aces are going to have to call a lot of the time because they know we can have those broadways.
Okay.
That have a gutter. And then those broadways with a gutter, depending if we have king 10 or jack 10, like we either have like 4 or 7 outs against the queen, but that queen has to fold now. So it's like a huge win for us if we bet big with that sort of hand. Yeah, we just get to fold out. Like a queen could have 70 or 80% against one of our gut shot hands.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying I would like to increase it with a hand like that. Because like you said, it's a big win.
Yeah, we get to fold out some hands that actually have us kind of crushed even.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And ace is going to call us no matter what. but that also allows us to get the maximum amount of value
I
when
feel
we
like if I was the under the gun player, regardless of what I had, and you were the big blind, and I bet big, you would be the guy with that would do that like whatever, like 2% raise with queen 10 off or whatever it was. You just love to
man.
attack me. I just every time I think about playing hands with you, like I just have like PTSD from that fucking from the avalanche last year.
Oh, when I did that small three bet.
Yeah, man, it just haunts me to this day.
I'm
Oh,
glad
God.
though. I'm if
You
I'm getting in people's
torture
heads
me.
like that. Yeah. So okay, so we'll say for the sake of this hand, big blind is going to call. Now, we can just pretend like let's say we have ace nine offsuit as the big blind. Like that'll be the hand we kind of I don't know if that'll be like the hand, but that's a hand where I think a lot of people will be able to relate, like, oh, I'm calling, obviously, but this is going to suck if I have to put in all the chips. Like, you can just sort of feel like you don't have any control over the
It's a
hand.
tough spot, right? Right. You're just hanging on. You're just hanging
Yep.
on. Yeah, you're praying your opponent checks the turn essentially. Oh,
Yeah.
almost every turn card.
Yes. And actually, I want to do a quick caveat because what I had just said about not having control of the hand, I think people can have this instinct to make suboptimal plays just for the sake of feeling like they're more in control of the result, if that makes sense.
Explain what you mean.
So sometimes people like uncertainty makes people uncomfortable. And
Mhm.
so a lot of times someone will have sort of a marginal hand and instead of like check calling or yeah, instead of like check calling, they'll try and just get the chips in now because they're like, well, I wasn't, I didn't want to fold or I didn't want to have to face another bet on the turn or something.
So maybe they'll be leading or check raising, something like that, you're saying? Like with
Yeah, and
suboptimal hands?
I don't know if that's the case in this specific situation, but I know I've heard people, whether it's just at the table or even in a coaching session, say, I want to take the lead in the hand or be the aggressor. And it's important to realize that being the aggressor is only a good thing if good things happen as a result of that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
If we have a medium ace here and we become the aggressor as the big blind, well, we're going to fold out all the hands that we're beating,
And
basically.
then we're gonna value own ourselves against all the hands that are beating us.
Yes. And sometimes, this might be pretty obvious to say, but like uncertainty in poker is just part of the game. And instead of making a play with the intention of avoiding an uncomfortable decision later, the best way to make a lot of money in poker is to sort of embrace those really difficult spots and figure out how to think through them correctly. Because I guess think of it this way, if you're doing something to emotionally feel more comfortable with the situation, you're probably sacrificing expected value. So instead of doing that, figure out what the best play is expected value wise in the moment and just sort of don't worry about what the turn card's going to be. Think about each situation in a vacuum and realize that in the long run of poker, theoretically, you're going to be in every spot infinite times.
Yep.
Obviously, that's not literally true,
Yep.
but if everyone were in all the same spots, it's about making the best decision in each spot, and it's not about trying to do things to avoid those spots.
Okay.
So
That's great. Well put.
yeah, long story short is embrace tough decisions and learn how to think through them and realize that, yeah, sometimes you're going to lose. Like
Yep.
sometimes everyone loses. So,
I mean, but Wes, what if our opponent has King Jack of Hearts? We don't want him to
yeah.
get there.
Yeah. And another point on that is like, you can always think of a hand like if we have ace nine, it's like, okay, sure, maybe we want to charge King Jack of Hearts now, but that's one combo. There are only a few combos like that.
Exactly. Yep. I mean,
We're
our opponent has so many more combos of hands that are just crushing us compared to hands of drawing that, and they're still not going to fold those hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. We can't control what cards come off. We can't yeah. I mean, speaking to the choir here. But all right, so
Continue.
continue the turn. So there's 15.7 big blinds in the pot right now, and both players have 27.9 blinds behind. So
Okay.
for the turn card, I put out the five of spades, which is very blank. It doesn't really improve anything except like ace five suited. There could be some heart draws that pick up a pair or combo draw, like a straight draw too now. But
I think it's been about 10 years since I've heard this, but in the words of Jason Somerville, and I might be wrong here, but I believe he calls them bananas. Banana.
what?
It's a banana. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, so a five of
Man,
spades.
that must have been before my time.
It was. I think you were like 3 years old, dude. No, but no, I used to watch him all night long back in like 2010, 2011, 2012. He was one of the first Twitch streamers, but I don't want to get too off course here.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't in diapers, but I did not have a driver's license. So that'll give some
Okay.
context. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
So big blind here, it's ace, queen, seven, two hearts, one diamond, then five of spades on the turn. Big blind here, we're just going to check everything. I know it says, if we look at GTO Wizard, it says we can bet 3.15 big blinds 1.7% of the time. I just ignore that. Like, there's no situation in game where I'm like,
Gonna do that.
gonna do that. Yeah.
And one thing I want to bring up before we get further into the turn action here is that like there's 15.7 big blinds in this pot, and we have 27.9 big blinds behind. This pot now is inflated, right? I mean, it's just my point is that like it sucks that we're to this point, even if we have like ace five, you know what I mean? Or ace nine, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah. Ace five is actually not bad now because we got two.
Sorry, not ace five, because it turns
yeah.
to five.
Ace
Sorry.
nine.
Yeah, ace nine is what you were saying earlier. Right. Now we have two pair and we're loving life, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. So ace nine in the big blind. Yeah. It's uncomfortable. So,
and it's a big pot. So now, like folding on the turn just makes you want to puke a little bit. You know what I mean?
yeah. But so does calling. Like,
yeah. And so does calling. Right. And that's the
facing a bet at all.
And that's the pressure that you're saying. We're putting the big blind in a lot of uncomfortable spots here. So what should we be doing here, Wes?
So as under the gun, this is actually the coolest thing about under the gun in this spot. So we should be betting a decent chunk of the time, and actually betting 13 bigs, which is almost half of our stack. That's the most common sizing, which is interesting because if we bet that and get called, it only leaves us with like a third pot behind.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is kind of unintuitive. But what's really cool is if we look at like King Jack suited, for example, we want to bluff King Jack suited some of the times if we have spades or clubs, but we want to check King Jack of hearts all the time. So, and just as a reminder to everyone, like King Jack of hearts is the one with the equity, like with flush draw. So
is this because we want to realize our equity?
That's part of it. But I think the bigger part is what we're trying to fold out here. So if we remember what our opponent called, if we remember what the big blind called with on the flop, it's mostly ace X and it's mostly hearts, whether it be with a queen or without. So if we're betting the turn here, one of the things that we're trying to fold out are the heart combos. Because if we, and that's where this big sizing comes in. If we bet 13 bigs into 15 with only another like 15 blinds back, we're kind of pricing out all the heart draws that don't also have a pair or a gut shot at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we actually want to unblock hearts if we're going to bluff, which is interesting because even if we, in almost all other scenarios, we want to be barreling with equity, right? But in this specific situation, it's much more profitable to bluff when we don't have the flush draw. Like I'm pulling up Jack nine suited here.
Yeah, I see that.
Spades and clubs, we should bet big, or yeah, we should bluff 100% of the time. Diamonds, we can bluff some of the time. Hearts, we should just check.
Okay. And if you're looking at the video version of this, look at the bottom right corner. You'll see the different suits there, and that's kind of where you can see what you should be doing with the hand. So like top right, Jack nine of hearts, Jack nine of spades, top left, etc.
Yep. And the reason that red thing is so thin for spades and clubs is that we wouldn't have gotten here very frequently with those hands because it would have wanted to bet a different size on the flop. Okay. But you can still see the EV, like the highest EV play for those is to bet the 13 big blinds. And yeah, so I think that was really cool for me to look at. Like one of the cool things about this hand is like we want to bluff when we don't have the hearts.
For more information, please refer back to our episode. You should double and triple barrel bluff more often.
Yes, that was good advice, apparently. And then you can also see like pocket threes, fours, sixes. These actually want to barrel as well. And kind of just similar in that if you have a heart, you want to check some of the time. But if you have like pocket fours without a heart, you want to bet almost 100% of the time.
As a bluff, you're saying?
As a bluff, yeah. And you're trying to, even if some of the hands you fold out are ones you were ahead of, they were hands with like 15 or 19 outs, right? So yeah, like folding out those draws with overcards is very profitable for hands like pocket fours. Whereas if we have like pocket jacks, actually it still wants to do that some of the time. But that surprises me actually. Pocket jacks without a heart, we should just bet all the time. That actually really surprises me.
That does too, because of the showdown value still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like yeah, the vulnerability. There's less vulnerability, right? Like if our opponent has a flush draw, we are less worried about them rivering a pair. Whereas if we have pocket fours, like we're worried about both the hearts and the pairs.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then as far as value bets, like ace nine suited, mostly checks, but bets a little bit. And then it's basically like ace 10 and above are value bets. Ace queen we can check as a trap now and again. I mean, I would probably just bet it.
If we say we do have ace queen, what are the numbers saying here? Because I mean, this is a hand where I'm probably not going to be betting. I mean, I see it looks like for ace queen that it wants us to bet, large half the time, like almost most of the time, right?
Yep.
I mean, personally, I don't know if that's what I'm going to be doing because I mean, that's applying a little too much pressure to all queen X's and 7X's that did end there. But is this assuming that all queen X's and 7X's folded the flop?
Yes, except for king queen or queen X with hearts.
Okay. So then maybe if that's the assumption, then maybe betting bigger is good because we just want to charge all those hands. But in real life, again, I think a lot of weaker hands are going to be still seeing this turn. Mm-hmm. So for that reason, I might be betting a little bit smaller.
I guess though, the way I would look at it is no matter what size we bet with a hand like ace queen, I'm going to assume now all the queens are going to fold, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. I mean, king queen should be folding. Yeah. Because I mean, essentially you're playing for it all if you're calling this.
Yeah. You're just trying to give the hands with a lot of equity, like the combo draws, give those a bad price. And then the ones that have a bad price or have bad odds against you, like ace nine is drawing dead against ace queen, right? But like ace nine might still call regardless.
Okay.
So say if you have a reason to think your opponent's going to call 8 big blinds with an ace, but not 13, then yeah, you should bet 8. What you'll see here is, so if we say under the gun bets 13 bigs, big blinds should be calling with a decent amount of ace X anyways. And so the idea is that we're not going to lose out against the ace X by
that makes complete sense, right? We don't want those hands to fold if we have value.
So yeah, we'll say under the gun takes that big sizing, and then big blind here. So it looks like all the queens are calling. The reason for that is like the only queen X suited that get here are the hearts, and so the queen X of hearts still want to call. All the offsuit queens are folding now. Basically, even like ace 6 should mostly fold. The other aces for the big blind that are going to call this bet, it's basically already just break even. We're not really trapping here. We're just bluff catching with the ace. We're talking about if the big blind had ace 9, it's already like in break even / depending on which combo you have, could be slightly negative EV.
Yeah. It's not a slam dunk by any means.
Yeah. And I know there are opponents I would fold this against. The interesting thing is if you have a hand like ace 9 or ace 8, it looks like you want to do some calling and some folding. But the times you want to fold are actually when your kicker is not a heart. And then if you have a heart as your kicker, you want to call all the time. Now, this doesn't mean that in the tournaments we play in that we should actually do that. But the reason that the solver likes to do that is we're assuming under the gun is not bluffing with hearts. So if we have a heart as a kicker, that makes it more likely that they have non-heart hands, which would be the ones that are bluffing.
Okay.
Yeah, cool way to think about it. Not necessarily how you should be thinking about it if you are playing in a $300 at Canterbury or something.
But I mean, again, it's the point is that like looking over these spots, it's not to give us exact answers. It's just to build our foundation of so that when we come into spots, we have a wider range of a view. You know what I mean? We can look at
we have more sort of pieces of information to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. And for, and you get comfortable with that the more you look at this stuff, right? So that when you come to these decisions, you're more prepared, more confident, etc.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then last thing is if you're the big blind and you have a flush draw and you turn a five, you can call that too. Or you turned a straight draw with the flush draw, you can call.
That's in hopes. Yeah.
Yeah, two pair or better should be going all in, plus some nut flush draws, some combo, like the few combo draws you have, you can do a little jam. But basically, big blind isn't going to be going all in much at all. And then we'll just say if big blind were to call here and the river is an offsuit jack, so we'll go jack of clubs. Big blind is going to be checking 100% of the time. And under the gun is going to be value bet jamming with ace 10 and better. And then the main bluffs are going to be like 10-9 suited, 10-8 suited, and 9-8 suited. And that's, you're mostly not going to have hearts. But even if you did get there with hearts, you should just go all in now, anyways.
Try and get that value.
Yeah, the value of the bluff, right?
That's what they call it, right? When you get a bluff through, it's a value.
That is, if you get a bluff through, that is kind of a value bet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's better than a value bet. All right. So if under the gun goes all in, basically what the big blind is going to do is fold out any of those combo draws, fold out any of those hearts with one pair, like queen X of hearts, that's still just one pair. All those are going to fold. And then you're going to call with obviously two pair better or like most of your ace X. Ace 10 is a lot better to have because that's like the minimum value hand that under the gun has. So
okay,
ace 10 is the threshold where it's like now this is just slightly more than a bluff catcher. Ace 9 and below, it's like this is purely a bluff catcher at this point. So yeah, in theory land, what we're looking at is you should call a lot when you have an ace. I mean, you're facing a third pot bet, so you don't have to be good that often. But the way we can interpret this for like a $300 live tournament or a 500, it's like, well, if our opponent isn't bluffing a lot, we can fold at some point here with a hand that we're quote unquote supposed to call with.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, I probably am folding earlier in the hand, like probably
if we have ace 9.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that I kind of learned earlier in poker when I started studying is that like, especially in this scenario when so there's 15 big blinds behind, we'll say, and there's 56 in the pot. Like, is that
41.
right? Or 41
before the shove.
41 before the shove. Well, we'll say under the gun shoves. I mean,
we're getting 4-1.
We should be expecting that before we make our turn action. So we should be prepared to call the river if we're calling the turn. Otherwise, just fold the turn.
Yeah, that's kind of that's a decent way to look at it. Like obviously under the gun we'll check sometimes, but I do agree with you that in a lot of scenarios in the live tournament here, the turn is where I would find the off ramp with a random weak ace. Because
specifically like ace 9. Sometimes ace 10's tough because like you said, like that's when that's the bottom or the top of the bluff catching, however you want to look at it, right? But like everything else is bluff catching from that point. Like ace 9, ace 8, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when you play in like a low to mid stakes live tournament, people will see bet pretty frequently,
Yeah.
but they don't bluff the turn enough. And so if we're looking at a hand here where, oh, ace nine or ace eight from the big blind is already sort of breaking even on the turn, what that really means is we're probably losing a lot by calling if we're facing someone, your average player,
Yeah.
right?
Some of
Because
that's not bluffing a lot on
someone who's not going to
that's
find
not
all the
turning rip right.
bluffs.
It's easy
Yeah,
for people to see bet. It's not easy for people to pull the double barrel and triple barrel triggers, clearly. I mean, it's yeah. A lot of people aren't also studied to the point where they know the combinations of hands they should be doing it with. So
yeah. And to be clear, I'm not either. Like, I was just as surprised as anyone that, like, oh, we're actually not supposed to bet the flush draws on the turn.
that surprises me as well. And I think, I mean, you think you'd get value from, I mean, I guess it all depends on what hands are beating you and hands you're getting value from, right? So, I mean, there are some combinations of, I don't know, there's so many different angles to look at it from. You know what I mean? Like, do I want
Yeah,
that's what makes it tough. It's like, do we want to pot control? Are we getting value? Like, I know we've discussed all these different reasons for why you should bet and check, and it's like, which one should you prioritize over the other?
yeah. And like the answer to that is always kind of a math problem, but you can't actually, it's not like realistic to figure that out every time in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're
And
Wes, the robot, right?
there's sometimes I'll very roughly estimate that stuff, but no, it's like, yeah, how do we know?
For me in these
Yeah.
spots, personally, I think what I take into consideration often, or what kind of comes into my head mostly, is what my opponent's capable of, what my implied value is, and things like that, and like where we're at in the tournament. Those are more easy, or those are easier kind of concepts to realize in the moment rather than trying to figure, like you said, do the math or prioritize whether you want to pot control, et cetera, if that makes sense.
Mhm. I agree. And just like we talked with the poker guys last week, like the solver should not be treated as the answers in the back of the book. It should be treated as, one of many tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, I mean,
So
and every single professional we've talked to, like Ian Matakis, I mean, yeah, they've all said the same thing about it, right? It's like this is not, it's not the answers. It's just a way to help you expand your perception of the situation.
yep. And to look at like we just looked at, like, yeah, if we go back and look at, well, why are we not betting, bluffing those flush draws on the turn? And it's like, well, when big blind faces that big size, a lot of their folds are hands that were just the flush draws. So we want to make it very likely that they have a flush
So,
draw when we
and I
bluff.
know a lot of listeners will be thinking, well, what's the answer? Well, the answer is that there isn't. I mean, there is no answer at the end of this. The point is what we were thinking along the way, all the way through with
Yeah.
different hands.
Yeah, and another way to look at it is, so after the flop, we had said queens and sevens are mostly supposed to fold. Well, if you think your
The
opponent,
larger sizings. Is
to the larger sizing, yeah. Well, if you think your opponent called the flop with all the queens and all the
that your
sevens,
neighbor screaming?
uh, call 911. No, so the if your opponent called with a queen and a seven or a seven on the flop, then as under the gun on the turn, well, then you should just bluff your flush draws and your non. You should just bluff everything on the turn, because now they're going to have so many more of these weak hands that you can fold out on the turn, right?
No, you're right. So let's kind of summarize this hand. I mean, so from I guess a few key
Take a
takeaways
points.
points, a few key take points from this hand is that, like, under the gun's opening range should be a lot tighter here. So from the big blind, so this is under the gun versus the big blind, we should be essentially we're gonna be in a tough spot here on specifically a board like ace queen seven two hearts, where under the gun has most of the advantage. They have are the range advantage, that is. So they have top sets, middle sets. They have just top pairs, top two pairs. I mean, so all that kind of stuff. Against, if we're in the big blind, if under the gun is betting bigger on a board like this, we should be folding second pairs and bottom pairs just right out of the gate, just folding it, because with 30 at a 35 big blind depth, we're kind of in between the critical and the comfortable zone, right? So we're kind of right in between that. So if we continue to play this hand with marginal hands and we're, and we're continue to call bets, we're going to find ourselves oftentimes either out of the tournament or down into critical zones more often than we're going to find ourselves in a beneficial spot with hands like queen X's and seven X's.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And then one more takeaway I think is like, I think people can relate to the feeling of being like, well, how do I avoid these spots? What do I do? And it's like, well, everyone is in these spots. So like, you just fold, like,
Yeah, it's
you
not
just
like the
fold the
best
flop.
players in the
Yeah.
world are just not getting into these spots. They
Yeah.
just know that like they're gonna find themselves in a difficult situation. I mean, they might do some things different, right? But they might just fold two on the flop with
Yep.
some hands and find it because the truth is they might just find a much better spot the next hand or the next orbit or whatever it might be. Or they might not find a better hand, they bust the tournament, but they know that this isn't a great spot for them from the big blind's perception or from their eyes.
Yeah. And the way I kind of phrase that is like, you're going to play in the big blind so many times. And of all the 9 spots at the table, like, this sucks the most because you're the one required to put chips in, right?
Mhm.
Like, no one is actually making money playing out of the big blind. So you're trying to minimize the loss here. Well, so it's sort of unlucky in a way to be, if you were to be assigned one hand to play for a day, if you got put in the big blind, that would be unlucky.
Mhm.
Now, when under the gun opens, that's unlucky again because under the gun is going to be the one who folds the most often, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're already just in this bad spot. And then when the board comes out ace queen seven, well, that's just unlucky. Like, it's not like you can do anything about that
Yeah. Yeah.
apart from just play it as well as you can, which is going to involve just folding a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And even when you're calling, it's with the assumption that your opponent's going to be bluffing enough. Otherwise, you basically just need to hit 2 pair or better, right?
Yeah. And sometimes even then against an under the gun open, you might just be dead.
Yeah, you might be.
So so the point here is against, our focus on this episode is 35 big blind plays. Just be honest with yourself. You might have second pair, but sometimes you just got to fold that to a single C bet. You know what I mean? In certain cases, I mean, sizing up here, obviously the wizard being GTO wizard, it wants us to, float on to smaller sizings, hoping to turn 2 pairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that was a really good hand to go over, especially it kind of just emphasizes how important positioning is and how much you need to pay attention to that with board textures.
All right, cool. So let's move on. I got one more hand here. And this is a hand. So we'll kind of treat it the same way, but this is actually a hand that I played online. So it was very similar sizing. It might have been 34, 33 big blinds deep, but this is essentially how it played out. So the hijack opened, and then I was in the cutoff, and I had ace five of spades, and I 3-bet. So GTO Wizard gives us 6.6 big blinds as the sizing. I think I made it slightly less, but we're just going to stick with what the tool has here.
Okay.
Folds back to the hijack, who calls, and we get the king queen 3 flop with the king and the 3 of spades. So I flopped the nut flush draw.
You had ace five of spades?
Yep.
Okay.
So hijack is going to want to just check everything here. And then, the king queen high board, I'm going to want to bet a lot without even looking at the chart here. What would your instinct be? Are there any hands that you would think to check here?
Absolutely. I mean, it might be incorrect, right? But my thought is that so it's hijack versus cutoff, right? So you 3-bet hijacks open, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hijack, while it is later position, I mean, they can still have like a lot of, king 10. I mean, they can be opening king 10 offs and stuff from that position. I believe. I mean, I haven't looked at I haven't looked at it, but
Yeah.
they can have a lot of top pairs, even top 2 pairs. I mean, they can have a lot of king queens.
They can have all the king queen. Yeah.
Yeah. They shouldn't have. I mean, I guess they could have top set if they're trapping. I don't know. I don't see that happening.
I don't think they would.
Yeah. And maybe even pocket queens, they'll be 4-betting from hijack to cut off open pretty, maybe to a decent frequent extent. I might be wrong there, but
no, I mean, I would just be auto shoving kings and
Oh yeah,
queens.
because we're 35 big blinds.
35 bigs,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So we can kind of almost rule out that pocket kings and pocket queens are out of their range. Um, However, all the king queens and then all the king, I mean, a ton of king X suiteds are in that range, and a ton of queen X suiteds. I think hands that I would want to be checking back on here. This is tough, but God, I mean, we have range advantage, I guess, but it's such a weird spot. I mean, I might check back something like, no, I want to say a small portion of the time I might check back ace five suited. I mean, slap me in the face for saying that, but
Well, you're out in Hawaii, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't reach.
Yeah,
But
I've been drunk for like a week straight, so I might be.
um,
No. But so hands I would be checking. There's a lot of them. I mean, I would be checking back like ace five of hearts probably. It's a tough spot, man. Maybe ace five with no backdoors,
okay,
like ace five of diamonds.
yeah. And to clarify, I don't know if I mentioned, but the queen is a heart. So
Okay, okay, oh, yeah. So
I
that's
know you
why.
can see that, but people listening might not
So
have
maybe
caught
ace
that.
five. I mean, with the potential backdoor, I probably would see bet ace five of hearts, right?
Mhm.
But I guess hands I would be checking back here. Pocket tens, pocket jacks. Um, are we three betting ace ten suited?
Um, ace 10, like at this stack depth, hands like ace jack suited, ace 10 suited make good flats because they can't really call a four bet shove, but they're so good and they play pretty well
You
post
know,
flops.
the more I think about this, I'm probably c betting jacks and tens and then just folding to check jams.
Yeah. Like,
Because I
so
just, it's because we have all of the ace kings, we have all the pocket kings, we have all the pocket queens. So like I mean, for range advantage purposes, we probably should just be c betting here a lot of hands.
yeah, my my instinct is just to see bet like everything,
Yeah.
mostly just go small with everything. If we're looking at the chart, like a lot of stuff can check some of the time. And my instinct would be to check like either jacks or tens or top set maybe. But yeah, I
To
think
check back jacks or tens or top set.
mhm,
Okay.
um, more realistically, I'm just gonna bet like a quarter pot with everything.
I think that makes sense to me. It takes me a little bit of time to process, Wes, but
Well,
after
and you're coming in semi blind here,
definitely.
whereas this is a hand I played and already looked at, so like
Yeah.
a little
Okay.
bit different scenario.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I like that though. I think I'm going to c bet mostly everything pretty small and then just be prepared to fold anything that's not value to a check jam.
Mhm.
Even tens and jacks, just like straight to the muck, obviously.
Yep. Yeah. So I went with about a quarter pot. So spoiler alert, we actually never find out what our opponent has here. He does call the flop bet. As we can, so even if we bet this quarter pot sizing, so like 3.9 into 15.7 big blinds, the hijack already has to fold out 37.5% of his combos. And that just makes the bet so powerful in that if we do have, I have ace five suited. So like I am thrilled to get a fold from any hand here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if we have a value hand, obviously we're not looking for a fold, but the hands that are folding are
Yeah. You're folding out
pretty
almost.
much dead against us anyways. So we're not going to get the only way we're going to extract chips from them is if we get a bluff from them.
I mean, if you're looking at the video version of this, you're getting a lot of hands to fold that are beating you.
Yeah, if we have ace five suited, we get like pocket eight, seven, sixes. A lot of it is these pocket
The
pairs.
pocket pairs. And I think, our opponent will have those a decent amount of the time, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to have those. And then like the stronger ace X suited, like ace six through ace nine suited.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, unless he has spades, but since we have spades, we know he can't have ace X of spades. So like all of his ace X suited that's beating us is going to fold too. So like ace five suited gets to fold out some hands that you know, we're definitely behind. Obviously, we have equity with the spades, but yeah. So I went with a quarter pot and got called. Pot is 28.4 big blinds here, or sorry, 23.5.
I was like, wait, that seems big.
Yeah. I was looking at the wrong thing. So turn was an offsuit queen. I don't remember if it was the diamond or club, but we'll just put the diamond, queen of diamonds there.
So we have essentially 24 and a half bigs behind, and so we have essentially a 1-to-1 SPR.
Yep, 1-to-1 SPR, and then the hijack checks cut off here.
Gosh, I
So
hate
what
I
you
hate this
hate the
turn
queen?
card, bro.
Yeah, me too. Um,
So the board pairs on the turn. It's a queen of diamonds.
yeah, it kind of feels like, and with my ace five suited that I did have, I was like, well, this sucks because I know I'm behind unless he has like Jack 10 suited, right? Or worse spades. But I also feel like this queen is just not a good card to bluff. I know he'll have a lot of king X and queen X. Obviously, like I don't think either one folds. If the turn was some other blank, I think he would start folding a queen on the turn.
And how many queen? I mean, I feel like our opponent should have more queens than us at this point, as played on the turn, right? So I mean, we either we have quads or ace queen, right? And maybe some
We could have
king queen
king queen
suited,
some.
or king queen
Yeah.
offset. Yeah.
You
But
know
I'm
what?
saying, go ahead.
Finish your thought. I was just going to look at exactly how many
I guess
queens.
my thought is that with ace five of spades, your specific hand in this scenario, just with your specific hand, this is a turn that I'm gonna be checking back 100% of the time.
Yep. Um, and so that is what I did. The GTO Wizard actually would like to keep betting it at some frequency, but surprisingly, it actually wants to bet the other ace five suiteds more. And I think this is similar to last hand where for one, we if we have ace five of spades, we don't want to get blown off our equity. And two, our goal of betting with those other hands is to fold out some flush draws. And obviously, if we have spades, there are just less folds to get from our opponent.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's fine with checking my hand, which is what I did. As for the what you
And
said about,
yeah, and explain why we're checking though. I mean, essentially, we want to realize equity, right?
yeah, we're real. We want to realize our equity, so we have outs we can hit. And I'm just kind of thinking we folded out a decent amount of hands on the flop, and so much of his calling range from the flop is going to be king X or queen X, which will not. Obviously, we're not going to fold out now. We could fold out like an ace jack or an ace 10,
Are we
but
folding out king jack? I mean, even
no, I don't.
yeah.
Like, let's take a look. Even if we just shove the turn, like we're getting called by pretty much any, you know,
And
any king.
this is why I think I like checking the turn with almost everything.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And we will so
That's
we
your
will
turn
have a
with
little
this.
bit of queen X that we three bet, but he'll have a lot of queen X too. So just going back to your what you had said before, like I think the hijack, the out of position player actually might have more queens here.
Yeah, I mean that's it definitely. Yeah, we hate this turn. So wait, let's foreshadow a little bit. We don't see the opponent's hand.
I shouldn't have said that, but
We don't see the opponent's hand. So
you
I'm
already know what's happening here.
yeah, I mean, I feel like we can make yeah, I feel like we can make some assumptions of what happens on the rivers. Ah, okay. I so now that I can see what the river is, because I actually didn't remember what the river was. Okay. I kind of like where this is going now, though. Let's
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm not going to spoil it. Continue.
Okay. So river is an offsuit 10. So we miss. We're pretty pretty much we're dead here. And our opponent decides to check. So at this point he should be checked. He could have ace 10 suited, which river to 10. He could have jack 10 suited. He could still have a lot of king X. So like all the way down to even king 5 suited. He should if he has like a weak flush draw, he's got to try and bluff here. And then he could value bet. He could river to straight. He could have a queen. He could have a full house, king, queen, and that's about it. So
But considering you check back, he should be betting all these on the river, right?
yeah, I mean he should maybe trap. I think king X is kind of like a pot control.
Yeah, king
It's
okay, king
not
X is a pot control. Yeah, king jack yeah, king jack. King 10 is even a pot control because I mean that's yeah,
same thing. It's
it's all the
counterfeit.
same thing, right? Exactly. Because
Um,
king 10 essentially is not in because the queen on the board essentially does not make that a better two pair. So
Correct. Yeah, and a lot of the queen X should mostly bet. Ace Jack surprisingly can, he rivered Broadway. He can do some checking and some betting.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why that exactly is, but I think it plays into what happens. So he checks, and at this point,
I want
so
to guess your sizing, by the way, before you get to that. Just
yeah, and so obviously I'm going to bluff here,
yeah.
which I kind of spoiled. So I think one thing that people it's easy to fall into is sort of having non thinking you have showdown value when you just don't have any.
Mhm.
If you have ace high or something, it can be easy to if you bet and then check down. Like there are some situations where ace high is enough showdown value, but in this spot, I recognize that like okay, even if he had like ace 10, like ace 10 beats me, jack 10, which I was beating, like these gut shots either made a straight or a pair. Like I can't, unless he's just giving up with a weak flush draw, of which there are still very few.
I mean, he has ace tens and stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. He'll have ace 10s. He'll have weak king X.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I
And those
need,
hands you can get to fold by betting the correct amount on this river.
yeah, well, yeah. So we've got just over pot size left.
Yes. So it's 24 and a half in our stack, 23 and a half in the pot. I'm going to guess you bet 18 and a half big blinds.
No,
Or is it like 22.5?
no, I just went all in.
Oh, you did go all in. Okay. I
Yeah,
thought, you're that kind of type of guy that loves to just leave a little behind though. You know what I mean?
in certain spots, yeah.
Yeah. I thought this might be one of them. I think I like this bet before getting further into it because here's the reason I like it is because you will have ace jacks. You'll also have pocket tens. You'll have pocket kings. I mean, the reason you can have pocket kings here still and check back the turn because it's a 1-to-1 SPR. So like you're now incentivizing him to lead the river to which then you could just shove on, right? You might get value from. So I think so those are hands that you would check back the turn, right? Pocket
yeah,
kings,
a decent amount. And I think
pocket
it's,
tens,
yeah,
etc.
it's good to recognize. Yeah, I'll have these like hands like ace, jack, and tens that check back the turn, trying to, and then they just improve on the river. But also, I'll have like traps like kings, king, queen, queen, queen that I'll check the turn to try and let him realize his equity
Yeah.
with a
Because you're
draw.
not losing value because the SPR is already so high.
Yep.
Because we can still almost expect to get all the chips in if he has. Yeah, I mean, plus you're now allowing him to bluff.
Yep. Exactly. So, anyways, yeah, I ripped the ace five suited here. And actually, surprisingly, so if you're looking at the video here, it wants me to check ace king. So I kind of landed on the right answer for the not exactly the right reasons here because in my head, I'm like, oh, if I had ace king or aces here, I would just jam for value anyways, try and stack him if he had a weaker king that he can hero with. Because my thought was he's not my thought is I know he doesn't have a queen here.
Mhm.
Like my range I put him on here is like he has a king or he has like jack 10 or ace 10. You know, he has like kind of a 10 or a king. And I want to make sure to fold out the tens.
Do we ever want to bet small with an ace king though, assuming that sometimes our opponent has king X that's not, that we're just beating?
So
King 10, king jack, king
so
5,
here's actually
whatever.
what it well, that actually maybe. So it wants him to call, even if we jam, he should call with king jack and king 10.
Okay.
But he should fold like king 8, king 7 suited. These are only he only has these suited.
Yeah, right. That makes those should be folding pre-flop to your 3-bet. Or it shouldn't even
Yeah,
be pre-flop, period.
the
The
offsuit
offsuit
ones,
variety,
right?
right.
Um, and so that's interesting. So if we, because it wants us to, the answer is technically no. Like it just wants us to check ace king. But let's say we do decide to bet smaller. Eh, he still folds a lot of like, yeah. If we bet, I guess the answer is he'll maybe be more likely to call the king 9 suited, king 8 suited and stuff if we bet small, but it's not enough to make up for the lost value we have from the other stuff. So
That's
like,
fair. Okay. So essentially, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, so that's like a pure soul read thing. Like I know my opponent has
right, right. Again, and
it's an
that's like,
exploit play kind of. Oh, I don't know, maybe it's not an exploit, but it's like a soul read play essentially.
yeah, if you know what your opponent has exactly, then you should try and not bet small enough to guarantee a call, but bet enough that you think the,
Right.
the expectation of chips you get between you want to maximize their frequency of calling while also getting enough chips and kind of
That
combining
makes
that.
sense. And it's also like such like a rare opportunity to be able to know that and have that, I mean, that information. So like it's just not really important.
Agreed. Agreed. So if
It
we
likes
look
your
at
ace five suited though, doesn't it? It likes the jam on the river, doesn't
it,
it?
so yeah, that's the thing. It does. Like ace five of spades here. It's like almost
Okay.
always jam. And when I don't jam, I should bet like 2/3 pot, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, so I got quote unquote the right answer, but the wrong reason in that I was thinking, oh, I would do this with aces and ace king too. It doesn't even want me to do it. It doesn't even want me to go that thin for value, but
What's
it
the
does.
okay? Okay, I'm seeing aces now.
We
Uh,
can do it a bit with aces,
yeah.
but mostly we're gonna have the boats and the straights for value here, which
I mean, isn't I mean, aren't considering the combinations on the board, isn't aces and ace king almost the same thing here?
the only difference is ace king blocks him having a king. So if we're betting aces or ace king, we're trying to get called by a king. But
Mhm.
if we have ace king, that's less value for us to have. Um,
Just not much, I feel like, but
it it is a bit, well, it cuts down the combos by a third, right? Because now
yeah,
there are only two kings instead of three kings.
right.
Um,
I guess it's enough. Yeah. I guess
yeah,
that's just kind of my initial thought at it.
yeah, and yeah, honestly, like even if ace king is better off betting smaller, but there aren't enough hands that we can, like our bluffs want to go all in essentially.
It's like
So
ace king suit, like if hijack has ace king, he's going all in pre with that hand.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So actually looking at this, like going all in with ace king would have been pretty bad, but with aces it makes a little bit more
A little
sense.
better. Okay. Yeah. And then it really likes the ace five suited bluff a lot.
It does, yeah. And so my thought was like, so if we go over here and we look at what
Oh, it liked ace five. Did it like ace five of hearts even more?
um
Am I seeing that right? Did I
let's
miss?
see.
Oh,
No.
no, never mind. Never mind. I was okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So the way he's going to respond is like he's going to fold ace 10 suited and ace 10 off. He actually, if he had trapped pocket aces, he's supposed to fold aces, which is pretty.
Imagine, dude.
That
Oh,
like I don't know if
imagine.
in game I would find that, but like the way it actually no, it just says that calling here loses like 7 or 8 bigs with aces. So like calling it off with aces is like a disaster for him.
Okay.
And I guess that's because most of my bluffs are ace high
I
here.
mean, yeah, and we've talked now about all the value you can have here.
And it's like the king, queens, kings,
Yeah.
ace jack,
Ace
and pocket
jack.
10. So
Yeah.
like
Pocket tens.
him calling with a king, him calling with like king jack is better because both the king and the jack block my value, but not my bluffs.
Hmm. Okay.
Obviously, if he had decided to trap with like a queen or with a straight, obviously those are calls. I think for me, I was like, I just sort of ruled that out. I don't think people trap enough with that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
So not that I put him on a hand, but I was like, I think he either has a king or like a 10 that he rivered. If he has a 10, I can get it to fold. If he has a king, I might get him to fold still. And
That's
so
so
it just
sick.
makes sense
And
to do.
you know what? I am if I'm hijack here, I mean it's not a large frequency, but I will definitely find flats with the ace trying to get value later in the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sick. That'd be so
Yeah.
sick. Yeah, and I mean you're anyways, okay. Sorry, I heard some random ass noise. So it's weird. Hawaii's weird, man. You hear some weird shit just like out of nowhere. It was
I'll
it.
have to go there sometime.
Yeah, so
So yeah, let's talk about the takeaways from this hand, and then we can sort of wrap things up. The biggest takeaway that I had, there were two, I guess. The first takeaway is for me with the ace five suited, like realize when your perceived showdown value is not real showdown value. When that river 10 comes out, ace high is just not ever good. So it makes bluffing the river almost mandatory. And the second takeaway, which I think we can see from the hands that the hijack is supposed to call the river jam with, the way you decide your linear ranking of hand strength isn't necessarily the best way to think about bluff catching the river. And what I mean by that is like here we can see our opponent's supposed to fold aces, but is supposed to call sometimes with king jack or king 10. And the reason for that has more to do with like blocking value and unblocking bluffs. And we,
Yeah, that's a great, I just want to like emphasize that. That's like a great way for people to understand how important blockers can be though. Like it wants you to fold an even stronger hand, but call with a slightly weaker hand, but because the way that it interacts with the board.
yeah. So we can see here, even GTO Wizard says king jack suited for him. It has a, for value removal, it has a ranking of 8 out of 10. So it blocks a lot of value.
Mhm.
Trash removal 1, so it doesn't block any bluffs. If he has aces, trash removal 10, so it's blocking a lot of bluffs and it's not blocking that much value.
That's a sweet feature, by the way.
It is.
It's like a condensed version to for it's an easy way to look at it.
It is.
That's great. I really like that. I think both of these hands, Wes, were kind of slam dunks, 35 big blind spots. I mean, this first one is a great way to kind of touch on how critical it is to play 35 big blind stacked importantly. And
Right. Yeah.
and the second hand kind of just emphasizes like second hand. Well, how would you explain the second hand or summarize it?
Yeah, there were just a few cool little concepts like when I see bet the flop with a flush draw, I'm actually planning on bluffing the turn a lot of the time. But it's sort of like, oh, that queen paired on the turn. So I changed that plan. I sort of went into give up mode, but also
That's
leaving
great.
the
That's
door
great.
open, taking each street as a new piece of information, being like, okay, well, now the turn made sense to check, but now that we're here on the river, now this makes so much sense to bluff again, you know?
That's great. Yeah. So it kind of you had to, yeah, it emphasized how you could change your path multiple ways in one hand due to how the board ran out and how you interacted with it or didn't interact with it. I mean, both ways. Um, yeah, that was super cool. I think a lot of people will find this helpful. I believe this is all the content we have for this episode. I guess those two hands playing 35 big blinds deep. This is a great study session. I think this kind of got me pumped up for when I get back from Hawaii.
Good.
Um, yeah, coming back next week, I'm going to be firing the Grizzly series on Global. Looking forward to trying to line up a few trophies on there. Getting back with you, doing some studio episodes. I know we got a lot of content that we're going to be pushing out over the next couple days here, or next couple weeks here, and maybe even trying some new formats. So we'll keep you up to date on that. The Discord channel has been popping off lately. I love hearing.
Yeah, I've been happy with it. I
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
before, so just a little insight for the people listening. Before we started recording, Max told me like, "Hey, could you mute your Discord notifications?" Because we had gotten like five in. We had been chatting for like 5 or 10 minutes beforehand, and
Yeah. Yeah. People are making runs right now online and they're talking about it, talking about their hands, and it's really cool to see everybody so involved and trying to learn and get better. And I just want to keep growing that community. So if you haven't yet, make sure to look at my pinned tweet on my Twitter. You can get access to our Discord channel. It's completely free. Come chat, come learn. It's a great place to just continue your improvement in poker.
it is well
Yeah.
said.
And I think I'll separate from that, I'll be back next week. We're gonna get after it. Wes, what do you got coming up here in the near future?
I'm gonna be skiing out at Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
When do you start that?
I'm headed out Friday, and I'll be
Okay.
gone for. I haven't actually decided which day I'm coming back yet, but I'll be out there for like a weekish or
Must be
so.
nice.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's gonna
Yeah.
be. It'll be really
Yeah,
nice.
so we'll do the good news about that is I can be in this, I said we'll be back in the studio. Well, at least I'll be back in the studio. We'll get another episode in there, but then we might get another Zoom one in here. Can't wait to share the content we have coming up with you
Yeah.
guys.
Well, and then we got the Canterbury Series Winter Classic or whatever it's called.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's going to be
Yeah,
mid-February.
yeah. Not to not to
Huh?
brag, but I final tabled. I got third place and fourth place in the mystery bounty and the main event last year. So
Okay.
I'm pretty good at those
Canterbury's been good
tournaments.
to you in the past 13 months or so.
Yeah, it has. It really
I wish
has.
I could say the same. Man, it's been a while since I've made results there, but variance, baby. We'll get there.
Variance, yeah.
Yeah, this is a great conversation today, Wes. I think we should wrap it up here. And we'll get back into the streets. Guys, make sure to hop into our Discord and give us some more recommendations too if there's people you want to hear on the podcast. Or if you want to give some feedback on this. I'm curious how you guys will think of this episode being a fully remote episode. No mics, no studio, nothing like that. Hope the quality turned out well enough for you guys. I know the content was
Content was top-notch quality.
top notch. Yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, morning, evening, weekend, whatever it is, whenever you're listening to it. Wes, hope you have a good night as well, brother.
You too.